Welcome back to the deep dive. We all have them, right? Those little arbitrary rules we set for ourselves, especially when it comes to hobbies. Maybe you're a photographer who, I don't know, only shoots in black and white, or a cook who just refuses to use cilantro. These rules are usually like defensive mechanisms, ways to manage time or money or just complexity.
And when a rule like that breaks, it's rarely a gentle thing. It's usually this sudden dramatic collision, and often a pretty beautiful one.
That is the exact narrative goldmine we are jumping into today. Our source material is a single, really concise entry. It's titled Notes on Gardening, Part 739, and it's by a gardener we know as Ang. It details this one singular moment from December 8th, 2025. And this isn't really just about a plant. It's about how unexpected curiosity can, force a confrontation with a rule you thought was ironclad.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to understand the gravity of that moment. We're going to analyze the specific qualities of one particular hybrid orchid, the Dendrobium Sophia Ang, that had enough, let's say, aesthetic and intellectual weight to just completely override a decades-long habit. And that brings up a deeper question for you to think about. What kind of specialized knowledge acts as that final barrier between just a passing fascination and, well, full commitment?
Well, let's get into the heart of Ang's dilemma.
Okay, so the source starts with this statement of a longstanding principle. Ang writes that they typically avoided the orchid section at plant nurseries. And that detail, I think it suggests a lot more than just a lack of interest.
Oh, I agree. When someone says they avoid a section, it means they know the danger, right? It's not neutrality. It's an active protective resistance.
Exactly.
If you're a gardener, you know that orchids are beautiful, but they can be notoriously demanding. They need specialized care, specific environments.
It can become a very expensive habit very quickly.
Right.
And this speaks to a profound level of discipline. Ang emphasizes that this rule held firm no matter how attractive the array of blooms spread across the display rack.
Oh.
I mean, we are talking about a gardener who has probably walked past those vibrant, stunning displays hundreds of times without even flinching. So this wasn't just some casual preference. It was a core behavioral filter.
And yet, here we are. We're discussing the moment that filter just failed. The notes describe this incredible transition from complete psychological defense to absolute compulsion.
What?
Tell us about the trigger.
It was instantaneous. Ang writes that this one single orchid truly caught my attention, and critically, it stopped me in my tracks. So it didn't allow for a quick dismissive glance. The resistance just broke down entirely. It forced the gardener not only to look, but to snap a few photos.
See, stopping to look is one thing, but the photo? The photo is the ultimate surrender to curiosity, isn't it?
It really is.
It implies documentation, it implies research. It's a clear admission that this specimen is different. You're preserving the moment so you can study it later.
It is. That compulsion to document, that signals the shift from avoidance to, active engagement. The central drama here is recognizing that even though Ang may have physically left the nursery without the orchid, the seed of curiosity was planted the moment that camera came out.
The psychological barrier was already breached.
Exactly.
Okay, so if we accept that the resistance crumbled, we have to look directly at the thing that did the damage. Let's decode this Dendrobium Sophia Ang. What makes this specific hybrid a rule breaker?
Well, Ang was meticulous in the details, which is so common when a gardener falls for a plant structure. They start with the shape, noting the flowers are broad, appealing.
So they're not tiny or delicate, they command space.
Right. And the color is the real star, isn't it?
Orange. The notes describe them as typically orange-colored with a dark orange lip. That immediately tells you this isn't some subtle, pastel flower. This is a dramatic, high-contrast bloom. It's designed to catch your eye from across a crowded aisle.
That combination is just visually arresting. The broad structure gives it a canvas, and that vibrant orange, paired with the deep, dark lip, provides this incredible focal point. It's built for impact. But what's fascinating here is that the allure doesn't just stop with the verified visual facts.
Ah, you're talking about the element of legend, the promise.
Exactly. Ang included this crucial piece of supplementary information. They write, although I didn't verify it myself, it is said that this variety produces gorgeously fragrant blossoms.
Wait, I wonder if the rumor of the fragrance was the actual tipping point, not just the color.
Interesting.
I mean, the orange made Ang stop, sure. But the potential for this profound sensory pleasure, this promise of a gorgeous fragrance that they hadn't even confirmed, maybe that's what cemented the flower in their memory and drove all the research that came after.
That's a really sharp insight. Curiosity is so often driven by that unknown factor, isn't it? If the flower had just been orange, it might have been admirable. But the combination of confirmed visual splendor and unverified high-stakes olfactory reward, that creates a much stickier kind of fascination.
Yeah.
It makes the plant an intellectual challenge, not just a pretty picture.
It turns it into a mystery to be solved. And the first step in solving that mystery is naming the suspect. Ang identified the culprit as the specific hybrid orchid Dendrobium Sophia Ang.
Yes, and immediately, the gardener's notes pivot. They move from appreciation to genetics, and that reveals the next layer of complexity.
Here's where the rabbit hole starts opening up. Once the name was known, Ang looked into the parentage and explicitly detailed it in the notes.
We learned that the Dendrobium Sophia Ang is a cross between Dendrobium Formosum and Dendrobium Frosty. Now, for someone who is actively trying to maintain a simple approach to gardening, even just learning 2 Latin names and understanding a hybrid cross is already a pretty significant investment of time.
It sounds manageable, though. Just 2 parents. That's a nice, neat little family tree, right?
If only it were that simple. This is where Ang's notes subtly shift from description to more of a warning. Ang notes that Dendrobium Frosty is also a hybrid.
Oh.
And rather than going into the details of its ancestry, Ang deliberately backs away, stating that the full lineage is rather long.
That is such a fascinating detail because that one phrase, rather long, it does all the heavy lifting, doesn't it?
It does?
It isn't just a fact, it's a deterrent. It shows Ang realized immediately that appreciating this one orange flower leads you to this vast, multi-generational genetic chart that they were trying so hard to avoid.
That's the nature of any specialized interest, really.
Yeah.
You start with a beautiful surface, and you quickly discover that to truly understand it, you have to delve into years, sometimes decades, of cumulative horticultural effort and crossbreeding.
All that beauty is underpinned by this profound hidden complexity.
Exactly.
It's the difference between admiring a celebrity and having to manage their entire extended family tree and all their business partnerships. The complexity just explodes.
It connects that momentary pleasure of the encounter to this massive historical effort of orchid breeding.
And Ang saw that depth, measured it against their established rule of avoidance, and paused. And that pause leads us to the final critical point of the notes, where Ang draws the line on commitment.
Right. Despite the rule being broken, despite the photos and the research, the gardener ultimately concludes that they will not be exploring orchids extensively. And they add the key phrase, for now.
So it was a powerful breach, but Ang regained control. The line held, but maybe only barely.
But the notes don't stop at just, I won't. Ang links this reluctance to a very specific technical prerequisite. And that's what elevates this from just a casual gardening reflection to a real study in commitment levels.
They state the only condition under which they would delve deeper is if they were to delve into the world of micro-propagation. So why is that the specialized high hurdle that holds Ang back? Why not just say, if I had more time, or if I had more space?
Because micro-propagation represents the true technical leap. It's not just pot and soil gardening anymore.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, micro-propagation is it's a scientific method of cloning plants in sterile, almost laboratory-like conditions. You are moving from a hobbyist to a serious participant in the propagation and maybe even the breeding of these complex hybrids.
Okay, can you explain why that technical requirement is so dramatically different from just standard gardening?
Absolutely. Think about traditional gardening. You're working with soil, sun, water. Micropropagation requires a totally different skill set. You are working with like agar jelly culture media in test tubes or flasks.
Wow.
You need laminar flow hoods for a sterile environment. You need surgical tools, specific chemical nutrients, and precise temperature controls. It involves understanding botany at a cellular level.
It's not about buying a bigger pot. It's about building a clean room.
Exactly. It is a commitment of space, equipment, time, and very specialized knowledge that is far beyond the scope of a casual gardener who just wants a pretty flower on their windowsill.
Right.
And Ang recognizes that true, deep involvement with the complexity of hybrids, like Sophia Ang, ultimately leads to the necessity of propagating them yourself, either to save money or to try and breed new ones.
So micropropagation is the final gatekeeper. The visual beauty of the Dendrobium Sophia Ang was enough to break the rule of avoidance. But the intimidating complexity of micropropagation is enough to reinforce the rule of commitment. It means the line has been drawn not at the point of aesthetic appeal, but at the point of required technical mastery.
And it creates this beautiful tension, doesn't it? The gardener is pulled by the visible result, that gorgeous orange bloom, but pushed back by the unseen technical requirements that are necessary to truly master the plant's existence.
So, to summarize Ang's intense, brief journey, a long-held rule was shattered by the high contrast appeal of a specific hybrid, the Dendrobium Sophia Ang. That event forced the gardener to confront the spiraling complexity of its rather long hybrid lineage, and ultimately, the high specialized technical barrier of micro-propagation prevented a full commitment to the orchid hobby. For now.
It's an archetypal story, really. Human curiosity bumping up against the reality of high specialization. And Ang's final words in the notes offer this little sliver of a promise. Till the next post.
And that phrase, till the next post, that's the final thought we should leave you, the listener, with. Ang clearly loves the beauty of the Sophia Ang and has already admitted defeat to its power once. So if a single specimen was powerful enough to break an ironclad, long-standing rule and compel this detailed investigation, how long will the technical barrier of sterile lab work and micropropagation truly hold up against this newly awakened profound curiosity?
What is the tipping point where the fascination finally outweighs the sheer complexity and the difficulty of the required effort? That, I think, is the real cliffhanger of the gardener's notes.
Something to ponder next time you find yourself drawn to something that threatens to derail your established routine. That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.